Welcome back, ladies and gents, for another episode of the Shut Up No One Cares Get Back to Work podcast. I'm your host, Colin Stuckert, Wild Foods and the Ancestral Mind founder. I'm obsessed with being the best version I can and helping you do the same. This show is all about evergreen first principles, big ideas that are not going to change and that are going to stand the test of time. So no matter when you tune in, today, tomorrow, a year, 10 years from now, these are going to be things that you can still take action on that are going to be applicable to life as we know it, regardless of when that life happens to be. Working on the intro. So today's big idea is keeping your phone off and how not turning it on in the mornings can change your life. I've had this thing where I go back and forth on whether or not I want to turn my phone on. I have employees, I have things going on, and there's this nagging sense that somebody's trying to get hold of me or whatever. And so when I turn my phone on, I'm trying to basically look for no text messages, right? Nobody trying to get a hold of me. And when that happens, I have relief and I can kind of go on with my morning and everything. But what I've realized is that things do pop up and a lot of times they're not that important. And when that happens, it saps my mental energy and it makes me distracted for the entire day. And since I've started with this daily podcast and writing and doing all my very built out morning routine of thinking and goal setting and all these different things, well, I need that state of mind to be clear and free, period. Turning my phone on in the morning and even having to make the decision about whether I should or not is something that I've eliminated completely. On the weekends, I'll probably turn it on, usually to check the weather or whatever, and usually because there's not really work stuff coming through. But during the week, I've decided that I'm going to keep my phone off completely, get my 2 to 3 hour morning routine done, then turn the phone on when I'm ready for shallow work. Now, you might have a different situation than mine, and you maybe get texts from friends and family, maybe your group messages, maybe your boss expects you to check your phone at all hours. I don't know what it is, but I think everybody needs to have some kind of ritual and routine with this. And what I've seen and what the research suggests is that going as long as you can without the phone being on, without checking your notifications, is going to pay dividends. Those things that come in, they require responses. If you don't respond, there's this nagging kind of reminder that you left something undone. You have to do it later. Maybe you get stressed out. Maybe somebody's bothering you for something. Maybe somebody's reminding you to pay them, and that kind of ruins your day. There's so many examples of where you have your phone on and you let people just come at you inbound whenever they want, for whatever reason they want, whether it's warranted or not. And that is not a good place to be. That is not a good place that I want to be. That's not a place that I want to allow people into my life, into my mind, into my subconscious. And having routines and rituals around it is going to prevent that and mitigate that as much as possible. Another thing I would recommend is if you have the same number for a long time, I would highly recommend changing your phone number, especially if you get a lot of spam calls and different things with business. Like I have people that try to contact me years on end, and I decided I need to change my number. And so I finally did, and those cut down drastically. And you might think that old friends, family can't get hold of you or whatever, but there's social media and there's email and there's DMs and there's Facebook. People will find a way to reach you, trust me. So that's just my little tip for the day. Take it or leave it, use it or don't. I recommend you do because it can have very profound effects in your life. And if you are somebody that struggles with anxiety or stress, the last thing you need is to have more of that piled on by people trying to put their agenda on to you. Have a better relationship with your phone. Turn it off more often. Airplane mode is for pros, especially in the morning. Keep it off and you will love it. When you get in the habit of doing it, you'll love it. I promise you that. All right. So again, this show's short, ideally 10 minutes. And we're going to really breeze through it today. We got the Daily 6, which is the 6 tips and recommendations for the day. I'll talk about it a little bit each one, and then I'm going to let you go to get back to your day. So I hope something in here stokes your interest, something that maybe you want to do more research on, or that you want to try in your own life or whatever. That's the goal of the show. That's why we're here. Make sure you subscribe and get all the updates, whether that's iTunes, YouTube, or at the very least, hop on the AM5 newsletter so that you can get a list of all the shows that were released for the week every Friday, as well as some of my other favorite content from around the web. The daily quote today is, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That's my boy Marcus Aurelius. He's just awesome. One of my favorite Stoic philosophers. Meditations by some is considered the greatest book ever written. Highly recommend reading that as well. I believe it's the Jeffrey Hayes translation that's really good. Check that out. Daily tip or recommendation. Each day, focus on your one big thing that you need to do. So this is based on Gary Keller's book, The One Thing. And it's really hard to implement because Sometimes those big things aren't things we really want to do, so we want to procrastinate on them. We want to put them off. Sometimes we don't know what the big thing is. For me, right now, with all the things I'm doing, 2 podcasts, YouTube, really breaking all the rules of focus, what I've found is that I'm able to put out my best work and get this stuff done while also saving time actually from what I was doing before by making sure that my focus is on my routine and making sure I go in a linear fashion and I don't mix my routine up. So my recording, right when I get home from my writing session, I record before I do anything else. And that's where I get this video podcast on the video. And then I'm going to edit this and then it's going to be done for the day. I don't have to worry about it. I don't have to think about it. It's done, ready to go, set to be published. When I deviate from that, when I try to do other things, maybe I'm hungry and I want to eat first or whatever, it ruins everything in my routine. So for me, one of my big things in my life is making sure my routine stays as perfect as possible. And then in other areas of your life, whether that's health, whether that's fitness, nutrition, relationships, we all just want to have one big thing for all of these different categories that we're going to focus on and where most of our energy should be spent because that's where most of our results come from. It's a long topic. It deserves multiple shows. Go read the book. Get on Audible or Amazon or Kindle or whatever and find ways every day to just take one thing. Like, what's one big thing that you can do that can make everything else easier or unnecessary? Ask yourself that question on a daily basis. And like I said, the show is about first principles. This stuff will change your life. Daily book recommendation, something that you can actually build your life on. That's what the Ancestral Mind is about, which is the other podcast that I do, as well as my personal brand around health, Sapiens by Hurry. I forget his name, but it is one of the best glimpses into our ancestral past, and it gives you a lot of foundational understanding into understanding why you are who you are today, what makes humans tick, why eating a certain way, living a certain way, thinking a certain way is going to be better for your biology than other ways. It is just the foundational understanding for all things health and longevity. In fact, for all things human, right? We are built with a certain set of predispositions through biology, through primal urges and needs, hormones, sex, food, desires, fears. These are all based in our ancestral past. They are what worked well in the wild, and now we have them. We inherited them from our ancestors, and we're living in a modern world, and so a lot of them are mismatched because fundamentally humans do their best. We would all be better off and healthier in probably every way if we went out in the wild and we lived like cavemen, basically. But we don't. We live in modern worlds, so we have to tweak things and we have to accommodate things and we have to use tools at our disposal to get the same effects with respect to our biology rather than trying to convince ourselves that we're just different or better than the rest of the animal kingdom and Mother Nature doesn't apply to us or whatever. Every time we think we're smarter than Mother Nature, we pay a health price, which you can see by the failing health of millions upon millions of people that are eating processed fake foods, aren't getting enough sleep, aren't moving, aren't exercising, are addicted to their screens, just are not happy. It's a shame. And it all comes from a either lack of understanding of biology or ignoring biology. So Sapiens is a big one. Daily health tip: chew more and eat slower. This will improve digestion, signal your brain that you're full. This is just one of those things that when you really are cognizant of and you think about it, it does help a lot. It helps prevent you from overeating. It helps satiety signals in your brain communicate between your gut, telling you that you're full, so you stop eating. You just want to do it. The more you chew, the easier it is on your digestion because chewing is the first way that we process food. People don't realize that. There's also enzymes in the mouth, amylase, and lipase, for example, that help break down food. And it's the reason that your mouth starts salivating when food is about to be shoveled into it. It helps break down the food. So chew more and it'll be easier in your gut. It'll be easier in the bathroom. It's better overall for a lot of reasons. Daily cooking tip: use more salt than you think. Use more salt than you think is going to be ideal. Use more salt to the point where you're probably going to oversalt it, and then do that enough so that you learn how to season food properly. 99% of amateur cooks don't use enough salt, and they don't salt throughout the process, the cooking process, whether that's before, during, middle, after, etc. And that's why their food is bland and boring. You could take a simple piece of chicken or a simple steak, and you can cook it without salt, and then you can cook it with enough salt. And the flavor profile and the enjoyment of that piece of protein is going to be night and day. Use more salt. And if you want to support the show, you can get wild pink salt and or wild kosher salt. I use both in the kitchen over at wildfoods.co. Use code WILDCEO for 12% off your entire order. Daily thoughts about money. Buy assets, then use assets and the income they produce to buy the crap you want. Most of the stuff we spend our money on is junk. It just is what it is. We live in a capitalistic society. We waste things. We buy things we don't need. We convince ourselves, blah, blah, blah. It's why minimalism has become such a trend lately, because we need some correction to all the waste and the excessiveness that is our culture, right? Find ways to spend money on assets, buy dividend producing stocks, buy rental real estate that maybe you Airbnb or rent out. There's a lot of examples of this. I'm not going to go into this. I'm not going to be I'm not going to do a whole expose on buying assets, but a really good book that you can read on this topic that is pretty much fundamental for personal finance and for building wealth is Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. You have to buy assets, and then those have to spit off income, and then you do that enough to eventually pay for your base needs. And then when you do it enough and you're constantly building and reinvesting, you can have enough money so that if you want to buy a Ferrari, even though it's stupid, if you want to buy one, then you can do so because your assets pay for it. Right? The rich buy real estate and stocks, and they buy businesses, and then they use the income from those things to buy the stupid things. Whereas poor people buy stupid things they don't need, like $200 shoes or whatever, and then they have to be a slave to working hours for somebody else to get money to pay for those things. And they go into debt and blah, blah, blah. It's a big freaking disaster. It's a joke. And nobody teaches you these things. There's not fiscal responsibility taught in schools. They teach you how to get a job so that you can be working for the man and then go into debt and buy things you don't need. It's all a corrupt system built against you, built to basically keep you a debt slave. That's what our entire economy is really built on right now. It's a shame. I hope you take something or multiple things from today's show and do something with it. And short and sweet, let you go. Get back to life and being the best you can. I'm Colin Stuckert, the Wild CEO, and I'm going to see you in the next one. Hey, Colin here. Thanks for watching that video. I got a free PDF for you, The 7 Principles of Living Wild. Short and sweet, not long, not going to be a novel you have to read or anything, just a simple reference of the things that make you a healthy human. So click on the button below, get that right now, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.